Pipeline to Profit Podcast, the show where B2B sales and marketing stop pointing fingers and start working together to drive real, measurable growth. Sales and marketing leaders, small business owners, and solopreneurs. If you're looking for a full pipeline of qualified leads, a healthy inbound flow of traffic, and a great brand reputation, you're in the right place. Together, co-hosts Tracy Bedwell and Krista Mollion bring over 3 decades of experience working with leaders on business growth. They aren't messing around. They cover the key topics to get you the ROI your business deserves. Enough said. Let's dive in.
Well, hello there, Tracy. I'm so happy to have you on our second episode of Pipeline to Profit and have you as my co-host. So today we can talk about lead magnets, and there's no one better than you and me to have this conversation because we really operate on 2 sides of the same coin, you on sales and me on marketing. And you happen to be somebody who I very much value as an expert because you have been in sales for over 35 years. So, for anyone who's listening to this episode, just let that sink in for a moment. You're talking to a vetted expert, and Tracy runs a company called Sales Training International, where she provides trainings for sales teams worldwide, even though she herself is based in the UK. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Krista. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be on our second episode of this and talking about a subject which is probably my favorite subject, lead magnets. I love lead magnets. And I am joined with yourself here today, Krista, from the company Unignorable Brands. That's Krista's company. It's a marketing agency, and she's been in marketing now for over 25 years. So another veteran in her side of the coin, marketing, but LinkedIn, but also a LinkedIn top voice, which sadly I'm not. But Krista is a LinkedIn top voice. So you're really talking to an expert on LinkedIn and an expert in marketing. Between the two of us, I am really hopeful that in this next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to give some really good tips on lead magnets. Not just what they are and how to create them, but really actionable tips that people can take away at the end of this and go and use instantly, whether you're running your own business or you're in a sales team or you're in a marketing team. You're going to be able to use these tips straight away, which I think is really important. So I'm going to start with a really simple question, and I'm going to throw this at you, Krista. What is a lead magnet?
Thanks, Tracy. And by the way, you should be a LinkedIn top voice. Both of us are very well versed at using LinkedIn, not only for our own businesses, but for our clients. Our clients both consider us go-tos to teach them and their teams how to better use LinkedIn on both sides, from top of funnel down to bottom of funnel. But thank you. That's a very good question because I feel it's misunderstood. So to define it very simply, a lead magnet is a valuable offer that you give in exchange for your lead's contact info.
Okay. Perfect. It's simple, but it's
Simple. And what kind of things would qualify as a lead magnet? So checklists, ebooks, quizzes, templates. You can give a discount code and they have to sign up. Events, challenges. There's very many ways that you can develop a lead magnet, but ultimately it only qualifies as a lead magnet if someone has to get it behind the paywall. So they have to fill out a form, they have to give you their email. That's what we really would define as a lead magnet, but they're extremely valuable in building email lists and building trust. So if you want to grow your business, you want to build a more pipeline, you definitely want to have a lead magnet.
perfect. Well, it's a simple explanation, but it's a valuable one. You know, you're giving value in exchange for their information. Simple. And yet so many of them fail. A lot of lead magnets fail. I think they fail often because they're very generic. They're very boring. I don't think people think about who their ideal client is. I don't think they think who is going to be consuming this lead magnet. Because if you think about it, I run a training company, you run a marketing agency. Our ideal clients are completely different. Our products and services are completely different. So therefore, our lead magnets should be completely different. And yet so many people just create generic, boring, repetitive lead magnets. Maybe they only have one or two and they just think that will do for everybody. They don't really talk about the problems they solve. They don't really add any value to the end user. And a lot of them don't even have a call to action. That's another reason they fail, not just because they're boring or generic. They don't actually have a call to action in them. So you're just putting something out there with no action at the end of it. So I'd say if you don't want your lead magnet to fail, don't make it generic, don't make it boring. Think about your product, think about your end user, think about problems you solve, and put a call to action in it. A really good call to action in it. I always like to think, if it's not something I would pay for, is it a good lead magnet?
Absolutely. And that's something that leads me into what makes a great lead magnet is I think you have to think this is so valuable that normally I would charge for it,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's really how you get your clients is they have so much choice out there. And if they're going to give away their very precious email, it better be worth it. So
Yeah.
make sure you're putting out your best stuff. Don't be afraid that you're going to over deliver and they won't want to buy from you. There's another tip I have about that I'll share later, how to prevent
Okay.
that from happening. But let's
Okay.
talk about what makes a great lead magnet. So I think there's a couple of characteristics that I would add to the list you just provided is it needs to be hyper specific and solve only one problem. If you're selling sales training and your lead magnet is like the ultimate guide to sales training, you'll never need another guide, that might be too broad, and then the person will mistakenly think, oh, I have this book, I don't need to pay for sales training, I won't hire anybody. So you don't want to overpromise. You want to solve one specific problem that you know that sales team has, and you know that because you've worked with your audience for a long time. And that's where you got to stay very focused. And then actionable. If the person can't implement the things you're teaching them in the lead magnet instantly, it's not worth it. So when we say over deliver, we're talking about something really juicy that you'd usually charge for in part of your paid services, but
Yes.
make it small and bite sized. Don't give away the farm, okay? Relevant to your product and service. Believe it or not, people don't realize, and that's what I'm saying, how to avoid people not buying your service. It has to be leading them to the belief and empowerment that you're the right person or group company to solve their problems. So if you say this is really relevant to helping them make the decision to hire a sales trainer or to
Yeah.
invest in sales training, your lead magnet has done the job.
Yeah.
Would you
No,
agree
I
with that?
would 100% agree with that. I can give you a good example of that actually. I created a lead magnet a little while ago. It was an ebook. So as you say, one of our products or services that we offer is sales training. But it would be stupid for me to create an ebook on the complete guide to sales training because then, as you say, they wouldn't need to use me as a sales trainer. But what I did is I took one part of the sales training process that people struggle with, lead generation. Okay. And that's what I created my ebook on. I made it really practical. Basically, you could pick up this ebook and go away and really overhaul your lead generation as a sales team. But lead generation is only one very small part of the sales process. They still need to know how to take that lead and turn it into a meeting. They still need to know how to build rapport, ask questions, identify needs, handle objections, negotiate, close sales, account manage. So, but I just took that one tiny little bit and gave them some really valuable tips. And that was probably still is my best lead magnet that I have. It's the one that, if you like, creates the most leads, actually closes more sales for me than anything else. But it's very specific. It really showcases what we do. It has very specific tips and hints in it. It has a good call to action in it, but it doesn't give away everything that we do. So 100% agree with you on that.
Well, so I have two lead magnets that are my best performing lead magnets. The first one I stumbled upon almost by accident was I decided to host a 5-day LinkedIn challenge. And this
Okay.
is way back when. And I got so many people to sign up for that challenge. And then they wanted more. They're like, this is great, but I loved being in the community. It was like a mini pop-up community for 5 days. I did it live. So for
Okay.
5 days, I went live and I discussed 5 different points of being successful on LinkedIn with real examples and also with interactive kind of questions and hot seats. And like they got to participate very strongly. And at the end of that 5 days, everyone was like, okay, we want to continue working with you. And that
Great.
was the beginning of my paid monthly community, which had a different name at first, Profitable Solopreneur, but later evolved. But the point was that was such an incredible lead magnet. The second one is very powerful that I currently have. It's a marketing scorecard. And it's like, rate how good your marketing is right now. And whatever you're doing, whether you're trying to DIY it or you've hired a team or you have an outsourced agency, how well are you faring? And I've divided it into different measurement points so that you can really understand, because marketing is a very broad area. And at the end of the quiz, like you said, my offer is if you scored under a certain rating, why don't you book a call with me? And if you scored above and you're doing really well, we can talk about being your agency. We can actually take over these things and scale even further, because it sounds like you're generating a lot of interest. Let's do it. So in the
Yeah.
end, it's a way of vetting who would be a good fit for my services, but they're kind of self-identifying themselves. So that's what I call a good lead magnet. It helps them come to the conclusion that, I really do want some help with my marketing. So those are some real live examples. But I think, speaking of that, we just covered 3 different types of lead magnets. I think we should elaborate on that list. So we covered a challenge, we covered an ebook, and we covered a scorecard, which is a kind of a quiz. What other kind of lead magnets have you encountered, Tracy?
Gosh, well, I actually have a lot of lead magnets, as you know, I use them a lot. So other things that work well for me and that I use a lot, our blog is a really good lead magnet. So we have a monthly blog. In fact, it's now bi-monthly because it's so popular for driving traffic to our website that we've now gone bi-monthly on our blog. White papers, depending on if, especially if you're selling B2B, a white paper can be really valuable. I think reports, industry updates, templates always work quite well. Quizzes, cheat sheets are really good, like cheats or how-to guides, one-pagers, they tend to work quite well. I think on LinkedIn, things like short videos, but on YouTube, maybe longer videos, how-to guides, quick tips, swipe files, even like a series. You were talking about that you went live with a mini series live on LinkedIn, but you could have like a mini tip series via email. You could do like a free course. Webinars work super well for me. Free webinars, because obviously we're giving away a little bit, gathering everybody's contact details. Those swipe post PDF files. Oh my God, I could go on forever. Discounts, samples. I feel like there's probably a load more I've missed, but there's so many options. What I would say is that you do not need to use all of those. And actually, if you're trying to use all of those, you're just going to run yourself ragged. I think what you need to understand is that there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, there's even some that people don't even go on, like Notion templates, interactive calculators, all those sorts of things. There's so many lead magnets. I think if we sat down between us, we could probably come up with a list of at least 50. At least 50.
Absolutely. I
So I
have
think
such a list, by the way. I
you've
will
got,
find
yeah,
it.
I mean, honestly, there's so many lead magnets. I think it's important, going back to what we said earlier, who's your client? What do they need help with? What's your products and service? Because, for example, a sample or a free offer might not work as well for B2B as it works for B2C, for example. So who's my end user? Who's my client? What's my product? What's my service? And then something might work really well on your website, but it might not work as well on LinkedIn, which might not work as well on YouTube, which might not work as well for your newsletter. So you may need to have some different ones for different audiences and different platforms. So I think it's important to understand the variety of lead magnets out there. And I think it's important to match them to your clients, your products and services, and the platform you're on.
100%. And someone in the audience who's listening to this might be getting a little overwhelmed at this point, listening to the two of us. And so please remember that between Tracy and I, we're like dinosaurs in this field. We have so much experience that.
Who are you? Dinosaurs.
Well, my point is, like, for us, we just list this off as if we're, filing our nails and this is all simple. You do not have to have all these lead magnets, especially when you're starting out in your business. So I just wanted to make that clear before people tune out and say, okay, I'll never accomplish that. This is like years in the making. And speaking of adjusting your lead magnets to the audience as well as different platforms, let's move into talking about the stages of lead magnets. So
Yes.
there's essentially three different phases in the funnel. And now
Mhm.
we're going to throw at you a little bit of sales marketing jargon, which is
Yeah.
TOFU, MOFU, and BOFU. So top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And I operate at the top of funnel. Tracy is at the bottom of the funnel. So it's a little bit less rewarding up at the top because we don't know if they're going to pay us. We're like, okay, we have to wait for, the sales team to close the deal and actually get the money. So a lot of times CEOs are like, well, what do you do all day in marketing? You're not really getting us any money in the door. But we really are, because what we're doing is we're filling the pipeline with qualified leads, at least marketing qualified leads, meaning they've demonstrated an interest in certain topics. Now what's really important for top of funnel marketing is to do some heavy research. Now, what kind of research am I talking about? I'm talking about audience research, segmentation research within that audience, and also keyword research. So I need to understand not only who am I serving, but what keywords are they actually looking for? What problems are they actually searching on YouTube, on Google, on now all the LLMs, the chatbot engines and all of that, AI engines? What are they searching for specifically? And then we're going to really try to target our content towards solving those, what we say, top of funnel problems. Because at the top of the funnel, the user may not be ready to buy yet. They're just in the discovery phase. They're curious. They're using some basic search engines to look up topics and figure out, like, how do I get started on LinkedIn? How do I generate leads on LinkedIn? Those would be typical examples of top of funnel questions versus, you know, 22 things your sales team should be doing on LinkedIn. That would be more of a bottom of the funnel kind of thing where there's more practical advice. So our goal at the top of the funnel is to stay a little bit broader,
Okay.
just so we can capture more leads. That's why traditionally, for those listening, you can't see my hands, but I'm trying to show you an inverted funnel, where at the top it's very wide. And then as we move down the funnel, we get more and more precise and it gets smaller and more narrow. So, some examples of top of the funnel content that I like to do are cheat sheets, free templates, ebooks, as long as it's specific to an industry who likes ebooks. We talked about this offline. And one of the ways I do this specifically is on the website. Whenever we put out an article, I always have at least one or even two lead magnets in there. And why is that? Because if we've gotten their attention, we don't know how long we're going to capture their attention. So they're looking through this article. They could be taken away from their computer at any moment. The phone rings, they have a meeting, they have to close their computer and leave. So we have a very short time span to get them to stay in touch with us. So
Right.
for example, let's say we're talking about 1,500 word article, 2,000 word article. I will put lead magnets at the top in the sticky bar so it's barely noticeable. I will put a lead magnet in the sidebar sometimes. So it looks like an advertisement, but it's actually for the lead magnet. I will embed a lead magnet in the mid section of the article. So
Yeah.
and then at the very bottom as well.
Sure.
So that's, think about all the opportunities just in a very short time that I can hit them with different ways. And then we also have something called an exit intent pop-up. Now, a lot of people hate pop-ups, but when someone has read the article, and they're going to leave. They're showing signs that they're not scrolling anymore. They're probably going to leave. Before they leave, there's a pop-up that comes and it says, hey, we've got this wonderful guide. You're looking at this topic, so this guide is related. So what I was saying is that on a typical blog post, you can insert an exit intent pop-up, which comes when someone stops scrolling, because that gives us a signal that they're probably not reading anymore. It's just open on their computer. And that means they're likely going to click away very soon. So when that happens, a pop-up comes and it said, hey, you're reading this wonderful article about whatever this topic is. We have a whole lead magnet to help you that's related to the topic they're reading about. So there's a high likelihood that they're like, oh yeah, I'll just grab this while I'm here. And so our goal, it's almost like a video game, is to get people to click as much as possible so that we don't lose them, that they don't bounce off our website without taking action. Now, on social media, top of funnel, for me, social media in general is a top of funnel very much. And what we do is we're always saying, like, I have these wonderful tips. Like, example, 2 days ago, I did a LinkedIn summer success live stream. And I said, drop in the comments summer tips, and I'll send you my PDF with all these tips and even more bonuses. And I got over 50 people to do that. So over 50 people gave me their email and got my opt-in. And this is just in a 1 hour live stream. So on social media, you can be doing this regularly. You can also put your lead magnet in your featured section and bookmark it on LinkedIn. On YouTube, you can put it in your description, get my top template for whatever you're doing here. On Instagram, you can create a link in bio short link. And when they click on it, it opens up how to book a call with you, how to find out about your services, and also download a couple of your lead magnets. So there's so many little things you can do. Ultimately, this is your 24/7 sales tool. So that's enough about top of funnel. I could go on, but I know that's not the end game. The end game is to get them to the bottom of the funnel. So let me know, Tracy, how you use lead magnets at the other end to really close the deals.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, the top of the funnel's a huge job, because that's to try and get as many people interested in your product or service as you can. But you're quite right, they may not be ready to buy. You're just letting them know we're here. This is what we do. And hopefully when they are ready to buy, you'll be the first person they think of. Now, the bottom of the funnel for me is quite a different ball game. So I always say to sales teams, any salesperson who does not have access to lead magnets, I don't know how you do your job. And that's a big statement from me. But I do say, if you don't have a lead magnet, how on earth do you do your job properly? Because for me, yes, all the top of the funnel and even the middle of the funnel, which moves them along towards helping them book that meeting and have that meeting with you, are valuable. But for me, once I am having a meeting with somebody as a salesperson, lead magnets come into play a lot of the time. So I might use a lead magnet to support a proposal that I send off to somebody. I might use a lead magnet to give them a free demo or a free sample of what we do. I might create a case study, for example, and use that case study on ROI for a similar person in a similar industry to support a proposal. I might give them like a free trial or a limited offer, not in my company, but I'm just talking in general here. They work quite well for me as a supporting document to a proposal, because I think it further builds that trust and further lets people know what it might be like to work with us if they said yes and went with us. But for me, they're super helpful while I'm following up as well. So if I send out a proposal to somebody, and obviously I'm not the only person sending that proposal to them, there's a couple of other people sending the proposal, I'm not stupid. When I follow up, if I've got a really great lead magnet that I've held back, and I can say, what's your thoughts on the proposal? And by the way, here's something else that might be interesting to you. Every time I follow up, and I don't follow up a lot, you know that I have a big bugbear about people who say like follow up 10 times. I follow up like maybe 3 times. But
That's for another podcast.
that's
We're going to
another,
do a podcast on the
that is
follow-ups for
another podcast
sure.
on follow up for sure. But for me, these lead magnets really help in following up, because if I'm drip feeding more value every time I follow up, I can be damn sure that my competition aren't. And then even if I stop following up and just leave them on like a 6-monthly or a quarterly newsletter or something, I'm still using a lead magnet in those. So for me, lead magnets are a great supporting tool for proposals. They're great depending on the industry you're in for giving them a free sample or a free demo or a free trial. But they're also great for follow-up and keeping top of mind, because, you know, it could be that you have a meeting with someone and their circumstances change and that actually they can't buy from you right now. But if we're continuing to give them value, because at the bottom of the funnel, it's not about awareness. They know you already. They already know what you do. They've already made that decision to have that meeting. It's about pushing them forward to make a decision to come with you. It's about letting them know that actually, if they decide you as their partner, that they're in safe hands. It's about eliminating any doubt that they may have. And it's about just pushing that sale on. And if you've got 3 companies following up, and you'll be the only one doing this, the other 2 won't. The other 2 will be sending those god-awful follow-up messages like, hey, circling back, keeping this to the top of your inbox and all that rubbish. But you're actually saying, I know you might not be ready to make a decision right now. I understand. But this popped up, which I thought would be really interesting to you. And it's about the conversation we had, sending it over to you. Who are they going to go to when they do want to make a decision? You. So for me, the top of the funnel, which you're very great at, is about creating awareness of who you are and what you do. And the bottom of the funnel is propelling the sale on so that when they're ready to make a decision, you're the one who has created enough value and enough trust that they're going to go with you. Simple.
Now, I don't want to steal your thunder because that was excellent, but there are 2 bottom of funnel lead magnets that I particularly have found
Go.
converting hot, converting and wonderful. The first one is kind of what you touched on, is why not do like HubSpot releases an annual state of marketing report, and they spend all year long doing surveys and polls and have research teams and talking with their clients. And then they have an editorial team who puts together this massively valuable report. And every year people flock to download that because all the CMOs who are their target market, they need to know that information. And so it's a no-brain lead magnet, but what it really does is it helps you stay top of mind so that later they're like, oh, we should check out HubSpot, you know? Is so to your point, you can do that annual basis, you can do it quarterly, and then you can just share it with those cold leads, the ones who've gone cold, the ones who used where the deal didn't come through. You're like, hey, I think that this might be valuable to you. You know, we just put this out. Would you like to have it? Or not even ask that, just send it over. I'm sending it. Hopefully it can be valuable to you. Hope everything's well. And that just puts you back on their radar. So I love that. The second thing is an audit. This is something that people don't realize can be a lead magnet, is to give away an audit. And how you do this is I've had video editors do this to me, where they'll go in and they'll look at my last videos from LinkedIn and they'll record a video where they give feedback how the video could be even better. And the way you have to do an audit is in a very diplomatic way. If you just tell the person that what you've done is rubbish, it's a huge repellent. But if you come in and you say, look, you're such a credible, professional, respected person, your videos should also match that level. I see a couple of areas of improvement. Watch to learn what I can do. If you want help with this, we have a video agency. We can take your videos from mid-level to excellent. You know, would you like to book a call? I'm much more likely to book a call with them than if someone just reaches out with no lead magnet, no
Yeah.
nothing, and just says, "Hey, we're a video agency, book a 15-minute call here." So that's another way of doing a lead magnet that maybe people don't even think about, but I consider it a lead magnet.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, when I send off a proposal to someone, say I've
Mhm.
had a conversation with somebody who's emailed me in to say, Tracy, we want some LinkedIn training for our sales team. Or Tracy, we need some training for our live chat or our web chat team to help them make more sales when they're on live chat, whatever it is. I will quite often, when I send the proposal off, I've done just that. I'll do a quick video to say, hey, look, I went on a couple of your staff members' LinkedIn profiles, or I went on your LinkedIn company page, or I tested out your web chat myself, and I'll actually record myself on video doing this. And here's some issues that I found that are easily fixable. And I've included how in our proposal, and they love that. They love the fact that I'm sending a video to support it with some real practical tips and tricks that they could put in, so and that helps you stand out. There's so many things you can do for lead magnets, and there's so many types of lead magnets. I think it's important at this point to highlight what works at the top of the funnel doesn't always work at the bottom of the funnel, and vice versa. Like at the top of the funnel, probably nobody's going to want to commit to a free trial or to commit to watching a video, but they might do a quick cheat sheet or template. I think in the middle of the funnel, people, if they're unsure, they haven't booked an appointment with you yet, but they know who you are, might go for like a webinar, but they wouldn't go for that at the top of the funnel. It's too much too soon. I just think it's really important that it's not just about what lead magnet we use. It's about when to use the right ones at the right stage of the funnel.
Absolutely. And I want to add from a technical perspective how you vet people. So
Yes.
how do you know who's at the top of the funnel versus who's at the bottom? Now let me tell you my definition and then I'll hear what you have to say. Is for me, someone who's at the top of the funnel isn't ready to make any kind of time commitment. So there's no free demos, free calls, hop on a call with me. They're just curious about solving a specific problem or learning more about that problem. So a quiz, a template, an ebook, something quick that they can save is great. Okay. And for me, a top of funnel person is just learning about your product and services, and they're not even really considering you. Middle of funnel is where they're like, okay, now I know more about it. Now I want to see maybe I want to learn more about the product. So I'll take a webinar so I can really understand what they do. And I'm willing to invest a little bit of time to watch this video, get on the webinar. And a lot of times I call the middle of the funnel people lurkers because they're kind of dodging around. They're not booking the call, but you kind of start seeing them pop up. If you're vigilant, you'll see them. And then the bottom of the funnel is someone who has already shown me buying signals. So what that
Yes.
means is I saw they viewed our company page because we have LinkedIn Business Premium, by the way. That's a great tool for anyone listening to understand buying signals and interest. And I would say that if you're not doing that on your personal profile and on your business profile, you're missing a ton of qualified leads because they're checking you out. So
Yeah.
they're just lurkers. They don't want to take action too quickly. But if you message them and say, hey, I noticed that you stopped by our page. Thank you. Was there anything particular that caught your eye? Would love to help you, then people a lot of times move into a sales call very quickly, but I think they have to show some kind of buying signals to be at that bottom of the funnel. So I would never send someone randomly a case study who hasn't
No.
shown me any buying signals at all. But I would send them some kind of a template and say, hey, for LinkedIn, here's a really great template that I use that has some AI prompts in there that might help you speed up all of the things you have to do on LinkedIn.
I
Would
think
you
I think
agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm exactly the same as you. I would only send a case study with a proposal, having had a meeting with them. But to get that meeting, I might have had to run a webinar. And to get them on the webinar, I might have had to do some cheat sheets or something like that to start off with. So I'm just working my other way back up. But yeah, I think it's really important to understand where in the funnel people are and what are the right lead magnets to use at that part of the funnel. I think one of the last things I certainly want to talk about, one of the last things I want to talk about is where do we put these lead magnets? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. I have a lot of lead magnets. I invest a lot of time in them because I think they're awesome tools. I'm not going to tell you all of the places, but for me, we have our lead magnets on our website. We have lead magnets on our, well, YouTube channels, social media. For us, I'm using them on LinkedIn, I'm using them on wider social media, I'm using them on YouTube, I'm using them on the website, I use them within email marketing drops, I use them on my newsletter drop, and then obviously I'm using them to support things as well. I don't particularly use things like paid ads or anything like that. That's not something I do, but I know you can use them on paid ads and things like that as well. So there's lots of different places, and I think that's important to understand because you can repurpose a lot of your lead magnets in multiple places. So what works well on one channel, you can maybe just easily amend it for another channel and easily amend it for another. So if you put a lot of time into creating a lead magnet, it's not just for one place. We can sometimes straight repurpose it, and other times with a little tweak, repurpose it easily for another channel. So I think it's important that we're using them in multiple places, because not everybody's going to find you on LinkedIn. Not everybody's going to find you on your website or, you know, on a Google search. Not everybody's going to be on your newsletter list. So for me, having them in multiple places and being able to tweak and repurpose them is really important. Would you agree on that?
Absolutely. I would say wherever you want your online presence to be, you should be thinking how you can include some sort of lead magnet, including on your business cards. Think about putting a QR code on your business cards. And in this QR code, you could have some thank you gift, like thank you for, stopping by. Here's a little thank you for you, and have a quick lead magnet that they might be interested in.
I'm
So
just
you got to get
smiling.
creative.
I'm just thinking, do people even use business cards anymore? I've not had them for about 10
I
years.
do. I went to a meeting yesterday where we exchanged business cards. I think in real life networking, we encounter so many people so quickly that it's so nice to have business cards. After an event, I usually come home and I try to sort through who I've met. And
Oh
the
my
people
gosh.
who've given me a business card, especially nice looking business cards, I'm much more likely to try to scan that, especially if they have a QR code. I think you're absolutely right. And so the bottom line, to summarize, because I know we're about out of time now, is you got to create lead magnets for different stages of the funnel. So now I hope everyone who's listening knows what the top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel is. Don't get too confused about it, but it's really simple. Start by creating 3, right? You create a quiz at the top, or an ebook, or something really simple that they can download quickly and immediately use. Then for the people you're nurturing, think about something more interesting, maybe like an email course where they get a series of emails and they learn about something. Or like I did, the 5-day challenge, that was a typical middle of the funnel actually. And
Free
and then
webinar, even? Like a webinar for free? That's
a,
simple.
or a webinar for free. You should be doing a couple of those. I know people are really good at webinars. And then bottom of the funnel is I think case studies are hands down my favorites. I think that a lot of people don't have great case studies, Tracy. And so seriously, I think sales needs to work with marketing, because sometimes the sales teams think, well, we don't have enough time to really put that together. And so I think that it can be prioritized better, and also maybe get some support from marketing, because all of this has to circle back with customer satisfaction, customer testimonials, real results. And for like the graphics and the polished copy, marketing can definitely help to do that. So that's about it. I mean, I think we've covered so much today. It's been great, and we could go on and on. But
Gosh,
I
yeah.
think the
Subject.
one, there's one last mistake that I have to point out, because I feel like we would be at a disservice to our audience if we didn't point this out. It's what happens after the lead magnet, because a lot of people are now concerned, oh, I'm going to create these wonderful lead magnets, I'm going to sprinkle them in different places. But it's very important to build an email funnel behind it. When someone clicks on that opt-in link, there should be right away a confirmation page, a thank you page. Your check your inbox, your checklist is on its way. You can even record a quick thank you video if you're maybe inclined to do so. And then you should figure out how to nurture those people. And usually I put them into a top of funnel welcome sequence where I go through like the 5 top myths about LinkedIn, for example. If I'm trying to nurture them with my LinkedIn services, that's what I would do. The misconceptions, the biggest mistakes, my top 5 tips for LinkedIn, that would be a typical welcome sequence because they downloaded the LinkedIn summer tips
Right.
lead magnet. So you really want to have a very specific sequence that will tie right back into what they showed interest in. That's
Right.
why segmentation is super important, because within your audience, there's people who have different levels of knowledge about things, and also they've demonstrated different interests by downloading one lead magnet over another. So I mean, that's where I really think some people drop the ball, is they just think, okay, I've got their email address. Now I'm not going to do anything. And then your leads go stale because you need to start emailing them immediately. Otherwise, they'll be like, wait, why am I getting this email? I don't remember ever downloading or opting in to this person's list. But
Yeah.
if you do it from day one, they know, like, and trust you. You can nurture them over time. And then you can hit them with middle of the funnel lead magnets to keep them interested and eventually get them into your bottom of the funnel lead magnets. Would you agree with that?
That's a great tip. And I think it's a really important tip. And I'm 100% with you. I think that's where most people drop the ball. They create these lead magnets and then don't do anything with them after someone has showed an interest. So I think that's a really great tip. So our time is up now for this particular session. I want to end by saying, I don't know about your website, Krista, but they could go onto my website, which is salestrainingint.com, and there's a free resources section, and they can see examples of lead magnets on there. I know Krista has some really good different lead magnets to what I have. So, check out our website, check out our YouTube channels, check out our LinkedIn, connect to us on LinkedIn if you're not connected to us. Because we're constantly showing examples of what good lead magnets are on there. And more importantly, if you have any questions about what we have talked about today and discussed, well then, if you're listening to this, drop it in the comments on whatever platform you're listening to this in, and we will respond to you and we will help you. Krista runs a marketing agency. She is primed to be able to help you with this. I run a sales training company. I'm primed to be able to help you with this. So if you liked it, drop a comment. If you've got a question, drop a comment, and visit our websites so that you can see examples of really good lead magnets.
Wonderful. So my website is unignorablebrands.co. That's CO, and I'm relaunching it right now. So stay tuned. But I do have a free gift for the audience. So I have a lead magnet free training for you. And this is a paid training that I'm going to unlock just for you. If you click on the link that I'm going to put in the show notes, you can get this paid training all about lead magnets absolutely for free. And it comes with a downloadable PDF with actionable tips and all kinds of examples. So definitely stay tuned for that goodie. And I'll see you in the next episode, Tracy. It's been wonderful speaking with you.
Speak to you soon.